everyone, Cleo here, welcome to my channel, and I am doing another book talk. Now the idea behind the book talk is just a little bit more casual than a book review, at least in my mind. You know, I feel like for a book review I would need to be super articulate. I would need to be able to give you all the information about every single aspect of the novel, and I feel like basically it should be more structured than this is going to be. But I'm a very chaotic person and I have a chaotic mind, so I think this more informal book talk setting works for me a lot better, and it's definitely going to make me film a lot more than it would if I were to feel like I need to get a book review out, because that just feels so structured in my mind. But so in any case, this book talk, as you can definitely tell by the title, is about Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. I've been delving into the work of Jonathan Safran Foer this month because basically at this point 2 days ago he gave a talk in the city of Leuven about his newest book, We Are the Weather, which isn't actually out in English yet, but it is out in Dutch. And so in order to prepare for that talk, I thought okay, this is the time to read all of those Safran Foer books that have been on my TBR. So I have read Safran Foer in the past. I just don't think it was the best book to start with. It's not one of his best books, and it was also one that kind of left me lukewarm. But I did also have Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close on my TBR for a very long time already. I mean, on my TBR, I'm saying as on my radar for a very long time. I think on Goodreads it was added in 2012 as a want to read book, so it's definitely been there for a very long time. So if you don't know the premise, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close is about a boy called Oscar who loses his father in the terrorist attacks on September 11th. In that sense, it's of course immediately a very heavy subject, because it's about the loss of a father figure, and loss of father figure is something that will return throughout multiple relationships in this story. But Safran Foer manages to keep this book light as well, and the key to keeping this light is his main character, Oscar. Now, Oscar is a 90-year-old boy, and it's often implied, especially in the movie adaptation, it was implied that he has Asperger's. So he has a very interesting outlook on the world. He sees things in a very scientific way, and so he has a lot of factual knowledge about things, and he will see things extremely logically. So that also means that when he's interacting with other people, something doesn't compute from time to time, but it also results in very interesting conversations, and he somehow manages to unlock very powerful emotions in the people he interacts with, because of the type of questions that he asks, which other people might not think it's appropriate to ask, or just might not think about asking at all. Now, Oscar, at the beginning of the book, he finds a sort of he's looking for something in his father's closet, and he accidentally drops a vase. Now, the vase that he finds in his father's closet has an envelope inside with a key in it, and one word on it, which is black. Now, Oscar and his father always used to play a sort of reconnaissance, how do you say that in English? Whatever, reconnaissance is what I'm going to be saying, but they sort of played this quest in which he would have to uncover clues and then find the solution to the mystery. And so he considers this whole mystery of the key as his next reconnaissance game. And so he wants to uncover the lock. He wants to find what lock this key unlocks. Had to think about that one. So he sets out. Basically, he considers that the name Black the word black is probably referring to a name, and so he sets out to interview all of the blacks living in New York City in order to find one that has had a contact with his father. So this is the main story of the book, and it's the one that we spent most time of. So we're mostly involved with Oscar trying to figure out what this key unlocks, and basically trying to get closer to his father again, as he feels like his father is slipping away from him. Also, because his mother is because he considers that his mother is entering into a new relationship, this feeling of his father slipping away from him is heightened even more. At the same time, we are also given stories from two different perspectives. We are given this story from a female perspective and from a male perspective, and these are stories set during World War II, and they involve the Dresden bombing. So we have multiple storylines, but what combines these storylines is this feeling of destruction and the impact of destruction on personal stories. So in both of these acts of terrorism and these acts of war, important people are lost, important people to the characters through which we see these events, and we're kind of seeing like how both events have left the character in which we are following lost, how it has left that person searching. And to me it was kind of clear all along who these different perspectives were, but I've seen some reviews from other people who didn't necessarily see the connection immediately. So I'm gonna leave it vague. I'm not going to go into it in case it might spoil somebody's enjoyment of this book, so I won't go into that. But I absolutely loved Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I love the way that it delves into like father-son relationships and the effect of the loss of a father on a son. There are multiple cases of sons losing their fathers, fathers losing their sons, and the impact that this has on them on an emotional level. Another interesting, sorry, I just startled my cat awake. Another interesting thing about this book is it's quite experimental. It's not entirely experimental, but it has some stuff in it that you wouldn't find in the average book. So it will have things like this, so an entire page with just like one line on it, and that will make sense to you when you read it, because it definitely refers to certain things. But if there's like a business card being mentioned, then you will also see it like that. But at the same time, it also has excerpts from his photographic work. So throughout the book, Oscar is taking pictures with his grandmother. So Oscar's taking pictures with a camera he's gifted by his So throughout the book, you're seeing Oscar taking pictures with his grandfather's camera, and these are the pictures that are included. But also other things, you know, like looking for it. It's super obvious, so why I'm not finding it is it's really completely beside me at this point. Come on, where are you? Ah, there you are. So there are also a couple of pages like this in there, in which he goes to like an art supply store and he looks at these types of pages in order to find a clue for his search for the key. And so it's kind of experimental in that sense, and in that sense I would also encourage you to not listen to the audiobook, but to have the book physically with you. Obviously you can do as I did, which is I listened to the audiobook while having the physical copy on me and while looking at the physical copy. It's just something that I sometimes do in order to be able to focus on something more, or to like really, when I say focus, it sounds as if I'm having difficulty enjoying the book, but in this sense it was more like an immersive experience. I wanted to be fully immersed into the story, and that for me is very easy to do when I'm listening to the audiobook while reading as well. But so yeah, definitely also at the end, but I'm not going to spoil that, but at the end, like the final couple of pages are definitely very beautiful to see in combination with the text itself. So I've already indicated this book is very much about acts of destruction, the Dresden bombing, the terrorist attacks on 9/11, but it's also very much a book about discovery. So as I've already indicated, the premise is this boy is searching for the lock that this key belongs to, but he's finding a lot more than just the lock in his search. So it's actually more about the other things that he finds upon his mission. Basically, it's more about him finding himself and about the strangers with who he interacts finding themselves as well. So it very much shows a whole host of like lost characters. For example, there's this upstairs neighbor who hasn't gone out in a very long time, who's finally setting foot into the world in order to join Oscar on his quest, and through these interactions he's kind of finding himself again. He's finding, you know, the courage to step out again, and he's definitely finding the will to move on with his life again. And this is just one in a whole host of characters who through the connection that they are making with Oscar are finding himself, which is a very beautiful message about how when people are lost, the best thing for them is a human connection in order to regain their selfhood, in order to regain their sense of self. Oscar himself is often seen discovering stuff, or like inventing stuff. So he's a very big inventor. He's constantly not only just portraying the act of creation by creating things like bracelets for his mother or things like that, but he's also very much inventing inside his mind. And these inventions are very they're very telling, because he's making inventions that basically avoid disasters, avoid people getting hurt, avoid animals getting hurt. So for example, he's making inventions that could have prevented his father's death. He's making inventions that could keep birds from flying against windows, after he's seen some statistics on the huge amount of birds that fly into the Empire State Building every single year. And so this is very interesting that he makes these types of inventions. It's very telling about the sort of trauma that he's experienced and the way that he's coping with it. But at the same time, he's also hoping that at some point he can stop inventing. Because if he stops inventing, it means that he's gotten rid of some of his anxiety, because this whole string of this cycle of inventions that he's sometimes stuck in, that he cannot really get out of. It's really, like, at times he really spirals into inventions and cannot stop inventing. All of this is very much triggered by anxiety he has about taking public transportation, or taking the elevator, or things like that, being in crowded spaces. All of these sort of anxieties that have clearly been triggered by the events that happened to his father. So I think this is a book that has very many levels and many very interesting themes to explore. I've touched upon a couple of them, but there's so much to be discovered in that. I think one of its very big strengths is the fact that I've seen the movie before I read the book, and even though I'd then already explored like the heavy hitting moments in this story, when I came across them again in the book, I still had to cry, and it still moved me as much as it did when I saw the movie. I've heard, of course, if you read the book, that the movie isn't really as hard-hitting, because like a lot of people feel like the different perspectives get lost in the movie adaptation, which is true. I think the movie adds up pretty well, but I still have to rewatch it in order to see it now that I've read the book, and to give you my comparison of the two. I would say that you shouldn't fear having already seen the movie and going into the book. It's definitely worth exploring the book, even though you've already seen the movie, though the book will give you more, I guess, than the movie did. But so yeah, this is my little short book talk about Safran Foer's Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close. So as I said in the beginning, more will follow. I have in the meantime already finished his Eating Animals. So this is a non-fiction book he wrote afterwards as well, and so this book talk will follow shortly. And I do intend to read Everything is Illuminated, his debut novel, as well this month. And so yeah, so you'll hear from me soon about more of his works as well. In case you're interested, definitely let me know what you felt about this book, if you have read it, or if you're interested, like kind of the reasons that you're not getting into it yet, I guess, or what you're really looking forward to in this book. But so yeah, I don't have a fixed filming schedule. I kind of film whenever, I post whenever. At the moment, I'm overflowing with ideas, so I'm basically just searching for time to be able to film, because yeah, the light needs to be good enough for me to film. I'm actually super surprised that the lighting is this good at this moment, because outside it's raining and it's super dark, so I don't know where this light is coming from, but I'm not complaining. But so yeah, see you guys for the next one. Bye!